So this past Monday Night Raw saw a pretty huge shift in the landscape of WWE on several fronts. Number one, Seth Rollins came back. The Wyatt Six made their debut and Drew McIntyre quit. I already talked about that in other videos, but this video, we're going to take a look at how those things might affect who is going to beat every current WWE champion. Of course, I do this once a month. I'm not terribly good at predicting things, to be honest with you, and a lot of you have pointed that out in the comments. I'm also not terribly good at fantasy booking, but that's not going to stop me from doing it anyways, because I'm back with another edition of Who's Gonna Dethrone Every WWE Champion. Let's go ahead and dive into it. First up, of course, he just retained over Drew McIntyre. I'm talking about Damian Priest, the current World Heavyweight Champion. He's got a match against the returning Seth Rollins at the upcoming Money in the Bank. And of course, past that, if he is able to beat Seth Rollins, he's got Gunther coming up at SummerSlam and probably also in Berlin. I see Berlin probably end up being like a rematch for Gunther should he not succeed at SummerSlam in getting that championship. So the big question, Steve, is who is going to beat Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship? Now, the easy answer, of course, would be Gunther at SummerSlam. However, I'm going to go out a limb. I'm going to double down on my last video when I talked about Finn Balor winning Money in the Bank. And I'm going to say Finn Balor dethrones Damian Priest using Money in the Bank. They're trying to set up Damian Priest right now as like an actual non-transitionary champion so that at the end of the day, people can be like, hey, wow, that champion after Seth Rollins did a pretty good job. I think they're setting that up by having him beat Seth Rollins at Money in the Bank, perhaps with some Judgment Day distractions or interference. And I think they're going to have him get through Gunther at SummerSlam, and maybe they could do like Gunther versus Ilya or something in Berlin. I don't know. You might be thinking to yourself, wait a second, idiot. Finn Balor didn't even pass the qualifier match this past Monday on Raw. It was Yeet Jey Uso. Yeah, well, you know what they always do? One of those last chance qualifier matches where they do a bunch of all the guys that lost. They put him like in a big battle royal of some sort, and then the winner, Finn Balor, comes out on top. I'm going to regret this one. I already know it, and I can already hear you guys clacking at the keyboards. That's not going to happen, Steve. You're an idiot. Whatever. That's what I think is going to happen for now anyways. Let's go ahead. I'm telling you guys, I think that they really want to roll with Damian Priest till at least kind of towards the end of the year, maybe. They need something memorable for Priest. So yeah. That's what I think is going to happen. Now that I'm past the most embarrassing one, the WWE Women's World Championship. That's right, Liv Morgan right now currently in a hot, steamy angle with Dominic Mysterio, making his hormones go crazy a mile a minute. Who's going to dethrone Liv Morgan? This one's pretty easy. It's Rhea Ripley. It's the entire point of the angle. It's the entire point of what she's doing Judgment Day, and they're not going to have Rhea Ripley come back and somehow not beat Liv Morgan for that title. I think they're going to give Liv Morgan a couple of decent title defenses between now and then, but certainly the person who's going to take that away from Liv Morgan is Rhea Ripley. I think we can all agree on that, right? Next up, WWE Champion Cody Rhodes. Undisputed Champion Cody Rhodes. That's what I think they call that title now. Who's going to beat him? This hasn't changed. Throw your L's up for the final boss. It's going to be The Rock at WrestleMania 41. You can guarantee that one. Next up, the WWE Women's Champion Bayley. Who's going to dethrone her? Of course, she's got Nia Jax coming up at SummerSlam. I don't know if Bayley's going to be doing anything at Money in the Bank, but for sure, Nia Jax is going to be coming up at SummerSlam. And I kind of feel like Bayley is going to get her ass whooped only to pull out the win sort of in a last-second desperation type thing, only to get cashed on by Tiffany Stratton. Yeah, I think Tiffany Stratton's going to be the next WWE Women's Champion. She's already sort of tried to cozy up with Nia Jax, and I think somehow, some way, all that's going to turn into an alliance of sort, but it's going to see Tiffany Stratton get that WWE Women's Championship, and that might not be the only championship she gets. We'll talk about that in a second. Next up, let's talk about some tag titles on the men's side of things. This is kind of difficult. We're going to talk about the ones that Miz and R-Truth have. I think those are referred to as the WWE World Tag Team titles. The pizza titles, you guys know what I'm talking about. They're not doing a whole hell of a lot with R-Truth and The Miz, largely because the Raw tag division kind of is not great right now. And so I was looking over the roster, like, who the hell can beat these guys, or who's even in the mix right now besides like maybe like Judgment Day. But then I was like, no. So they're doing this comedy angle with The Miz and R-Truth. So it's got to be bad guys. And I was thinking maybe, just maybe, it's going to be the bad Creeds. We've been seeing Chad Gable talk to the Creeds backstage in like the background. There are reports that the Creeds are going to be joining Chad Gable, maybe with Alpha Academy, having basically left Otis, and Maxine and Tozawa having left, although I think they're going to come back now that Chad Gable's been murdered of sorts. He's not really murdered. It just looked like it was a hammer shot to the head. I feel like the Creeds are going to sort of step in there, and they're going to be like his star pupils, and the way they're going to do that is by getting the tag team championships. I'll be honest with you, I got no idea who else could possibly take those titles off of Miz and R-Truth, because the tag team division on the men's side of things, kind of on both brands, but mainly on Raw, is in a sad state of affairs. They need to focus more energy on that particular division. Let's talk about the SmackDown side of things with the tag titles. We're talking about the WWE Tag Team Championships. Of course, right now, A-Town Down, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller have those, and they've been teasing a split between those two. So I would imagine the split's going to happen after they lose the titles. And right now, it just seems like, number one, DIY is kind of the most prominent face tag team there. They're in a program with them, and it seems like they can only like take this whole like Grayson Waller being a dick to Austin Theory so far before they eventually split. I don't know if this is going to happen at Money in the Bank or if this is going to happen at SummerSlam. It feels like they'll probably stretch it out to SummerSlam, but I kind of feel like DIY is going to be the one to take those tag titles off of Theory and Waller. You saw Gargano talking to Theory this past Friday on SmackDown saying, hey, back when we were in the way, you were kind of a cool guy, and now you're a douchebag because of this guy, Grayson Waller, over here. And then he ended up eating a super kick and a running knee, Theory did. And so it's probably not going to sit right with him. In any event, DIY is going to take those titles off of A-Town down. Might as well go ahead and make it a trifecta for the tag division in total. The women's tag champions, the Unholy Union, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. Who's going to take the tag titles off of them? Common sort of theory right now, I think for a lot of people, is Jade and Bianca is going to come and swoop in and grab those titles again. Although I think on Raw it was teased. Was it Raw or SmackDown? It was Raw. It was teased that it's going to be Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler as their next opponents. They're kind of framing the Unholy Union now as good guys too. This big babyface win of theirs over the dastardly Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler, albeit by stealing Jade and Bianca's finisher. It does seem like they're going to give them at least a couple of title defenses before they drop those titles. I don't think, though, it's going to be to Jade and Bianca, although I do think they are going to get those tag titles back. However, I think that in the meantime, you're going to get the Unholy Union dropping those tag titles to Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax. They teased an alliance. I think they're going to be trying to get that WWE Women's Championship off of Bayley, kind of together, maybe first Nia Jax, and then maybe via Money in the Bank, Tiffany Stratton. And in the meantime, to sort of demonstrate that, hey, we're like strong and stuff, I think they're going to be the ones to take those tag titles off of the Unholy Union. If you guys remember, in the last time I did this video, it's like, it's going to be some tag team that we have not seen yet to take the titles off of Jade and Bianca. Now, that was totally wrong, but I was kind of on the right path when I said Raquel Rodriguez and Nia Jax is a possibility. Not Raquel Rodriguez now. It's going to be Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton. Probably way off on that one, but whatever, it is what it is. Now let's talk about the mid-card titles. The Intercontinental Championship one is kind of interesting because Chad Gable seemingly is out of the Intercontinental Championship scene. Adam Pearce brought up the fact that he's tried five times right now to get that title, and he couldn't get the job done. And that didn't sit too well with Chad Gable, who said, I'm going to win Money in the Bank, and then I'm going to win the World Championship, and then he got murdered. So it's not going to be Chad Gable. So then it's like, who is it going to be? Braun Breaker stepped up. Sheamus stepped up. I kind of feel like those guys cancel each other out to a degree. And so I don't think it's going to be either one of them. Instead, I think it's going to be the guy who's looking for revenge on Braun Breaker for killing his friend Ricochet. I'm talking about Ilya Dragunov. I think that feud, and I know Ilya's a good guy and Sammy's a good guy, but I kind of feel like just those two guys wrestling is enough for people to get hyped up over that potential feud, and then Ilya ends up beating Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship. That is a shot in the dark, people. I think a lot of people would love to see it. I would love to see it because the other contenders, I don't know. There's plenty of people there on Raw as a possibility, but I kind of feel like Ilya would make just a killer Intercontinental Champion. So that, and I don't know when it would happen exactly, but I kind of feel like it wouldn't shock me to see, the whole, gentleman's agreement, and then Ilya beats Sami, and then Sami has yet another crisis of confidence. Let's talk about the United States Championship, currently held by Logan Paul. LA Knight is in a feud with Logan Paul. This is kind of interesting because I feel like LA Knight needs that extra thing. Doesn't necessarily needs it, but the crowd still really loves him. And I feel like they're going to get behind him winning something. He was kind of robbed of Money in the Bank last year. Of course, he had 2 title shots against Roman Reigns, both in a solo and in a fatal 4-way. And now what does he do? He's going after the United States Championship. I don't know that it would really benefit him all that much if he were to lose in this feud against Logan Paul, because then it's like, well, what then? So I kind of feel like LA Knight is going to be the guy to take this title off Logan Paul. I know Logan Paul is a big time influencer. He's a dude who trends heavily, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I think it's probably time. I don't know what else really they're going to get out of him having that United States Championship. I like Logan Paul as a wrestler. I think as a promo, he's really, really good. And as a wrestler, like everything about pro wrestling, I really like about Logan Paul. I just don't necessarily know like that the person who beats him is going to benefit all that much from it. He's still sort of, I don't know, the perception is he's sort of like a new guy and a part-timer, and everybody acknowledges how good he is in the ring, but it also just sort of feels like that title is just sort of in abeyance, if you will. Like it wasn't even on the line against Cody Rhodes, so the United States title scene was just sort of frozen during that time. So yeah, I kind of feel like it's going to end up being LA Knight, and then maybe he can feud with Carmelo Hayes over it going in towards the end of the year. So maybe at SummerSlam, I know Cleveland is where Logan Paul's from, but if he wants to do the whole I hate this town, you guys suck, this is my hometown and it blows thing, then maybe it'd be okay for him to lose in his hometown. Or maybe after SummerSlam, I don't know. But I kind of feel like LA Knight's going to be the guy. All right, so you guys already know my picks for Money in the Bank as well. Finn Balor and Tiffany Stratton. So let's move on to NXT, because a lot of you in the comments last time wanted that. So we'll go ahead and do this. Trick Williams. So it looks like he's probably going to be in a fatal 4-way at the upcoming Heat Wave with Javon Evans, Ethan Page, and Shawn Spears. Talked about this today on Going in Raw, the podcast. Kind of feel like Ethan Page should win this. I don't think it would hurt Trick to lose the title in a 4-way. And I just don't know what more you can do with Ethan Page being a fairly high-profile new signee there at NXT. I feel like Trick, there's sort of like a lack of proper big-time heels for Trick Williams. I don't think that they have many people, like, what are they going to do? Joe Coffey? Like, who realistically is going to take that title off Trick Williams? And I feel like Trick is better chasing. So, and it seems like Ethan Page is kind of in his head a little bit. So I say either at Heat Wave or in a one-on-one, something like that, have Ethan Page beat Trick Williams, or at least come away during the Fatal 4-Way, like by pinning Shawn Spears or Javon Evans and winning that championship. Hell, he could pin Javon Evans, and Trick Williams could blame Javon Evans for being the guy who ate the pin and sort of, get him on tilt a little bit. In any event, I think Ethan Page will look great with that NXT Championship, and him and Trick can kind of develop a feud. They're not going to call up Trick until at least middle of next year because they got the CW deal. They're moving networks. So I don't think that Trick is going to go anywhere because he's a really popular guy. So, yeah, I feel like the idea of him and Ethan Page kind of trading those titles a little bit probably wouldn't be out of pocket. I think it'd be a good move for Trick and NXT. All right, let's talk about the NXT Women's Championship. Roxanne Perez. I feel like Sol Ruca is going to be the one to take that title off of her. She seems to be the strongest baby face they have right now in the women's division. They could go with somebody like a Lash Legend, perhaps, but I feel like Sol Ruca really has the crowd behind her. She's going to be challenging Kalani Jordan soon for that North American Championship. I think she's going to lose that because it's too soon, but I do think that at some point she'll probably end up winning, like, I don't know, a #1 contender type thing, and then go on and actually beat Roxanne at one of their big premium live events. Hopefully it's not in that god-awful UFC Apex. That thing was terrible. Let's talk about the NXT North American Women's Championship, right now held by Kalani Jordan, who is a terrific wrestler, who's come a long way in a very short period of time. Charisma has everything you want from a wrestler. I feel like somebody else who has everything you want from a wrestler, Ariana Grace, is going to be the one to take that title off her. They seem to be teasing a thing right now, and I think it's probably too soon for that title change to happen, but Ariana, they have got a wealth of awesome talent there in the women's division. It could be Jada Parker. Ariana Grace is a good name. I don't know. I'm on the spot right now, so I can't think of anybody else, but that's my pick. Who did I say? Oh, yeah, Ariana Grace. All right, let's talk about the NXT North American title. With Obafemi has it right now. He ain't losing that anytime soon. In fact, I would put more money on him holding that title with the NXT World title. I think Obafemi's going to have one of those really long reigns, and he's going to do the Keith Lee and have both those titles at the same time, and then just probably vacate the North American one. So nobody's going to take it off him. Nobody will dethrone Obafemi for the rest of time. NXT Tag Champions, Nathan Frazier and Axiom. Who's going to dethrone them? Seemingly Nathan Frazier's ambition for solo accomplishments, because he's got his eye on the Heritage Cup prize. I don't think he's going to win that off Tony D. But the question is, who's going to take those NXT Tag Team titles off of Axiom and Nathan Frazier? I don't know. Who's out there? The Good Brothers? No. Oh, it's going to be, what do they call it? Out the Mud. OTM. That's who's going to do it. I like those guys. They bizarrely remind me of GTA characters. I wonder why. It's because all their branding is GTA branding. That's why. And finally, let's talk about the Heritage Cup. Tony D'Angelo is holding that thing hostage. I don't know who's going to take that thing off him. Who's even, I don't know, Miles Bourne? Tavion Heights? How about, what's his name? Frank Ledger? Tank Ledger? I don't even know. Who's the other guy? Hank, what's his name? I don't know. How about this? AJ France? No, Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry takes the Heritage Cup off of Tony D'Angelo. I just solved it, everybody. I did it. I said his name because I believe, and then he's supposed to appear.
Say his name, man.
Or something like that.
I believe in Joe Hendry.
Anyways, that's going to do it for Who's Going to Dethrone Everybody. We'll see you guys around. Hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. We'll see you around. Goodbye.